Check. There you go. Check. Waking up on a Sunday morning to draw Turbo Pit Fighter. And we're live.
Is this happening? So,
This is happening, people.
Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter. We are making a comic book every Sunday for about an hour or two, live on the air. This is not a comic book. This is a drawing I made in a pad, but this is the pad that has my progress I was looking for last week.
Yeah.
Folks, you can see our exploits every week on YouTube, and you can binge our past episodes anytime you feel like it. We also have channels for flip-throughs of great comics, and we also do creator interviews. But this is our flagship right here. We have our Making Turbo Pit Fighter series, and we're a couple of years into this. I'm going to resume page 26. Oh man, that thing came back on again. This is what I was looking for so long last week. It says Turbo Roughs, and I was just unpacking from a big move, and we're like, where's this? Where's that? Well, I couldn't find it at first last week. I was still unboxing everything. All right, so this is page 25. The orphanage blows up. These are just the roughs, and the final pencils are here. But I'm on this page now, and I started sketching out pretty much the whole thing. This is going to be kind of like a anticlimactic scene where they're driving and they're setting up the next situation. They're going to be coming into this town. Now, I asked you, Kurt, for a name for this town. It says entering, and then it's blank. There's going to be some signs here that say no heavy arms. And I wanted to say, like, no freebooters or something, but there's not enough room there. I started to draw this mechanized armored car, and Trophy is going to be saying, "We got company." So this page isn't going to really, it is going to set up the tension, but right here is where Turbo is snapping out of her daydream. She's snapping out of her flashback scene. That's enough. We've got to keep moving. They're still coming. So we're back in the present moment, Turbo and Trophy. The robot says heat signatures, less than 5 miles, boss. Then Turbo will say something to the effect of the rest of the way is straight downhill. Then we go to this, and I don't even know what I want to show in this panel. I think I want to show like the cab of the van to kind of remind people that they're in a van.
Yeah.
Then here I have the exterior of the van. It's going to be a rough ride. I took all the time to draw this carefully, and sometimes I'm like, man, I'm supposed to just be roughing this out. But it is helpful when you transfer this to the to the final to have it all worked out. And the little city town is going to look like this. I have all this room here for dialogue, so we can add dialogue that I don't have in my thumbnails. And then we get down to this panel, and it's going to be they're driving in down the mountainside, and it says entering blank, and whatever we want to call that. No heavy arms and no something. I don't know. And then we've got company. There is some room for dialogue up here, or maybe like down here, but it would have to be short things. So this is a weird dynamic in comic making when you're doing like the Marvel method. It's like you don't have a full script, you're doing the art, and then you're doing the word balloons later. But we're doing it where the artists and the writers are the same people. So now it's like I need a short word balloon here. I don't want to have to redo anything. And thank you. And there's kind of like the give and take that you don't have in a regular comic, where the artist has a full script and lays everything out accordingly. I kind of laid things out, visually, and now I want to do the word balloons on top of that. See if did my daughter take the dog? Okay. Kurt, you're working on Turbo number 1, and you're getting to the last half. So
this is the last. This is page 28.
Oh, that's the last
of
page?
issue 1. This is the last page. I'll be applying my 80% inking, which is the skeletal black line on white paper.
You need to be a little louder,
then,
bro. You need to be a little louder on the mic. You need to be a little closer to the mic, I think. Better? Hello? I lost you. Now we lost
hit that. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, every time I go to adjust the volume on my mic, I end up tapping the mute button, which is right next to the volume. So,
right.
Yeah. So the 80% inking, which is the skeletal black and white lines on page 28, is the last page of issue number 1. So once I get this done, I'll go back to page 19 and start applying my gray graphite wash
toning
to it, and my toning and my texturing, and start working on the next 6 pages, which would not be that far off from being concluded. I could even predict to say that those next 6 pages from my side would be done probably October. So,
well, October's coming hot and heavy. We're already into August, so we have 4 episodes a month. We have 1 episode a week, 4 months. So, yeah, you are starting to get a handle on, our slow but steady progress, and hopefully we'll have the other artwork for Doom Magazine's number 1 from the other contributors in time. But that brings up a question about what I'm doing today. I really want to lay out this panel, this like interior van scene, but I also loaded up the Ken Landgraf pages onto this drive right here. So maybe I'll do this for a little while, and then I'll open up the white laptop and start laying those pages out so that we can put the word balloons in.
That's cool, but I just need to remind you that at 11:30 we'll be jumping onto a indie creator exchange with James Coates, one half of the Coates brothers. They have a Kickstarter live right now, so we're going to give them a little help pushing forward. But they are also an intricate part of PowerPulpComics.com, and so we're going to be jumping off, but at 11:15 sharp, my friend.
Okay, so it's all good. It's all progress. Whatever we do. This is the one I got right here. This looks really cool.
Oh yeah, I got the same thing. I just finished reading this yesterday. I love this. I'm actually going back to watching these old ninja 80s ninja movies, 90s with Sho Kosugi, Al Leong. Leong, who's like when I saw his face, I was like, man, James is bringing it. So, this is really going to be an exciting interview, which gets us back into our interviews since we jumped off because of summer and all the excitement that happens in moving house and not really wanting to do anything in the middle of summer.
I know. Now we're getting to the last half of summer. So I always say when teachers get off for the summer, everybody's really happy, and the kids too. The only one that's not happy is the parents.
Yeah.
but for me, I'm such a pessimist that it just immediately becomes a countdown, right? I tell people I just enjoy that one Friday night, and then everything else is just a countdown, like dreading the
back to school,
the change of weather and everything. But I'm trying to be more optimistic because I do like my job. I just don't like getting up in the morning, you know. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna lay out. So I need. Let me see if I'm back in order. I need my blue line pencil, and I need a black line pencil. So I have a regular pencil here, and I have a case of blue line pencils here, and this one's open already. Okay, so this is how I work nowadays. It's a pretty good workflow for me. Instead of using a light box how I used to, like that comic you have there, Turbo #1, was all done on a light box where I roughed it out and then I drew it tight, and then I went over a light box and I drew it super tight because I wanted the pencils to be final originals and everything. And I was, I don't know, going for something there. But now I have this separate pad. This is my rough pad, and I'm doing blue line pencils, then black line pencils to get 2 bites at the apple without having to erase and without having to use a light box. Different artists use different methods. This is what I kind of settled into. And I need to show the interior of the van. So the question is going to be, do I want to be inside the van looking out or looking from behind, or do I want to be outside the van looking in, which we have done earlier in the comic? I think I want to do like a new view that we haven't really seen before. And this is kind of a challenge, but it's good to challenge yourself as an artist. So I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like turning the scene around and seeing like which way do I want to. You know, one thing I did want to convey is that it's really, really downhill, like really heavily downhill. So I wanted that somehow to come across, but I guess, yeah, I mean, I think we need a good look at the robot to see who's talking. And he doesn't really have a head. He just has, he drives with one hand. I think he's driving with one hand now. And we'll have Turbo here in the passenger seat, and then we'll have Trophy here in the back, kind of floating around. She's facing Turbo. So Turbo, I have to figure this out. Did we show who's driving or anything? No, we have to go all the way back now to the pages and see how we left things off in the van after they defeated everybody and they fixed the spare tire. All right, here we go. This is 25 pages of Turbo Pitfighter pencils. Page 23. This is all flashback. We blew up the orphanage. Look at all this action. Holy mother of pearl. We did a lot of work, man. A lot of work. All this is flashback. We had a long flashback. Here's Dishbomb the Slaver. His head got blown off. When are we going back to Turbo? Here we go. All right. We got to go all the way back to page 14. That's how long that flashback sequence was. Like 11-page flashback sequence. Here Turbo emerges victorious as she defeated all of the bikers. I haven't seen these pages forever. Did that really just happen? So she's changing the tire here. Now they're in the cab, and Trophy was driving. And here I did show from inside the cab. I showed this already, and I showed the robot Gopher. And I have to remember to give him his.
Can you get rid of that shadow that's on your page?
Oh, this is because the light is on the wrong side over here. Maybe I'm gonna try moving this light fixture. Oh God, I bought this LED light, and every time you plug it in, you have to unplug it and plug it in to get it to work. That's so whack. All right, now the light's on the other side. Is that better?
Oh yeah, thank you.
All right, so here, this is page 14. It's like this must have been a year ago or more. We are inside the cab here, and we see the robot. We get a view of the road outside. Trophy is in the driver's seat. Can the robot not drive anymore? Does he need two hands to drive in the future? Because we have to decide. So this is how we leave off.
What is his safety protocol?
His safety protocol? Well, yeah, his job.
Yeah, all robots have safety protocol. Haven't you been watching Sam Altman's interviews lately? Oh my Lord.
Oh God, I've been listening to Sam Altman way too much.
Me too.
Don't get me started.
He's out fundraising. He's out fundraising right now.
Well, OpenAI just started a partnership with the American Federation of Teachers, which is my national union, and they're going to train teachers in how to use AI responsibly. And I'm like, are they training teachers or teachers training them? Because, we don't want all the negative, stuff coming into classrooms. And we know kids are going to be, like homework is going to have to disappear because, right, because you can just use AI and turn in. You want to hear a funny story, Kurt? So
always do.
This morning I'm doom scrolling through Instagram, and a story pops up. The Chicago Sun-Times and the Philadelphia Inquirer and many other newspapers, they often publish syndicated content, and every year they do a summer reading list in their book section, right? And so they did a piece that ran in all those newspapers called Summer Reading List. But it turns out the guy who writes it and submits it used AI and didn't check to see if the books were factual. And so a couple of the entries on the list that have the name of the book, the author. Now they use real authors.
I love it.
But they had a fake book name, and then they wrote a blurb describing the book and why people should read it. And there was like 3 books at least, I don't know if it was more, on the list from real authors, but that didn't exist. And the author never checked the AI, and then all these editors at all these newspapers didn't check the freaking books actually existed. And it was a big egg on face. And
that's awesome. That's
right.
So. And what's his name was just in front of the Congress talking about how, God, what was the writer's name that was, he's suing them to get all this money for all these people making books of his work and stuff. I mean, it's open season,
he
man.
Became an AI filter. He became like an AI.
Yeah, well, no, he's a popular person to make similar style books. So in the style of, he found
like
out
James
was
Patterson, or one of those guys.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just very evident that we have gotten so lazy and are getting so much more lazier that even Sam Altman is worried about it. But going back to my original injection there about robots, because you got Isaac Asimov's 3 rules of the robot. Robots can't harm people. Robots are only there to serve, people, blah blah blah. So like literally, the question is, at this point, if because you wrote this back in 99, so there's not any kind of like robots being at this, getting towards this sentient kind of level in reality. So, the best you had was Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so, with the Johnny Cab. But what you triggered and why I brought it up was, your question is, would the robot take one hand off the wheel in order to do something else, which moves his attention away from his primary function, which is driving the truck?
Yeah, well,
so that kind of answers the question, but it also opens another question of like, in our timeline, 200 years from now, what do we want to say about robots? I'm not saying we're going to predict future. I'm just saying in an escapist fantasy type thing, what do we want to say about robots in that type of situation?
Right. Well, this robot Gopher, it's funny because in 99, like I didn't even like foresee that the robot would be integrated into the car, right? It would just be the brain, all right, the accelerator pedal just goes down, So I have this. So I guess in our story, she gets just like an old truck, and so she needs, an old robot to drive it physically, manually.
Yeah.
But the problem is the robot got one of his arms kicked off by the berserker invader guy. So
what if the robot's complaining? What if the robot's complaining that it can't function at its primary level and is concerned for the safety of Turbo and Trophy? So there's these little murmurings going on where, hey boss, you better get me another arm, or this is going to be a unsafe ride.
Well, yeah, they're headed down to this little mechanical, wonderland where all these mechanics are. So they'll be able to fix his arm. But yeah, so the question is like, who's driving this thing? And so I'm gonna just draw Turbo here at the wheel, even though Trophy was there a minute ago. That was before the 11-page flashback. Because you do need to hang on here. I wanted to make this comment about the roads in the future. In the post-apocalyptic wasteland, all those movies that you're seeing, folks, about these cars, they're all fake, including Road Warrior and Mad Max, because the roads need to be maintained, and they're not. And roads just takes one freaking season, one winter, and there's potholes all over the road. So we're going to have rough road in here, and it's just going to be that the cars have adapted. They look like they're normal wheels, but the wheels really go up and down, to accommodate the different levels of the road and the potholes and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to actually comment about that, and then maybe this will be, like a comment on the whole genre. And I know people are like, why are you ruining all my good movies? I was just tempted last night to watch Fury. Yeah, Fury Road pops up in my on my TV last night. I wanted to watch it so bad, but it was already like past midnight, so I didn't start all that. But I could just watch those over and over. Yeah, but a touch of realism. I think that's hopefully that's one of the pluses. That we have here. There's enough here that you have to suspend disbelief as it is. Radioactive currency. I don't know if wouldn't that just be killing people for decades? So we have to make it some way here in the story where it doesn't kill people, but it does make them a little sicker and sicker. And I love that commentary on money and greed and everything, is that the richer you are with this radioactive currency, the more exposure you're getting. the shield, right? Wouldn't that be great in real life if money was radioactive and the more you have, the sicker you get? But we're also going to have people that cheat the rules by having resistance to radioactivity, and
Mutants.
In the future, money can buy anything, including human enhancement. Uh, and we're gonna be going over all that, and television goggles, which enable you to see the quantum world. So we're gonna be going over all that kind of fun stuff. So let's do a catch up segment, Kurt. We haven't spoken in a week. How's your world? How's your life? What'd you see? What'd you do? You just drawing? What's going on? See any
Well,
movies?
I'm hot and heavy on. This month is me closing up my
Your Crom
anthology #1. 220 plus pages of sword and sorcery goodness. So I have a video on cromthebarbarian.com where people can go and it's the only place you can actually see me go through each story and write up a list, like a punch list of all that has to happen in order to get this completed. And I'm not like pressuring myself too much, but I do have a deadline for the end of August. So I'm getting up every morning about 4 or 5 in the morning and working for 2 to 3 hours on pages and things that have to happen. But other than that, you did mess me up last week with the same question about what I've been watching. You actually asked, have I watched any good post-apocalyptic stuff? So, I'm a sword and sorcery nut, hence the Crom the Barbarian and Crom Anthology. So I watched Deathstalker, #1.
That's the famous celebrity tie-in.
Yeah, and remember, there's a comic book, so I think I'm gonna try to hunt down a copy of that comic book that was kickstarted. But an interesting thing came up, because usually, like when I watch old movies, I have my tablet on my lap.
Yeah.
And I'll go to the IMDb page and I'll find, oh, this is a Roger Corman. Oh, they did this in, Southeast Asia or Indonesia. So-and-so was the lead actor, so-and-so directed it and stuff. Oh, because I also watched Lost Empire, which is a Jim Warnowski film. And that started leading me down the rabbit hole of I've got 16 movies in queue right now that are 2 or 3 of them are actually post-apocalyptic. Something about Wasteland 3000, something.
Oh,
so, but
no,
the biggest news.
Yeah, I think I know that one. It's like Warriors of the Wasteland.
Yeah. But I think there's a 3000 in there, or there's something else that starts with 3000 something waste or whatever.
Yeah, I think it had 2 titles.
Some of these things had 16 of them, 16 titles.
Yeah, depending on the country that puts them out, they change the title on the poster sometimes. But yeah,
but my birthday is Tuesday, and every birthday for as long as I can remember, I get a bottle of wine, a bowl of popcorn, and I watch Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. So that I'm very much looking forward to. Really recharges my battery, and also, kind of even inspires and resets me, for what it is that I think about in the way of making my own sword and sorcery and comic book material. And I have to say, since I do grow a smidge every year, I get a little older and a little bit wiser. There's always something I recognize that I never saw before in the movie. If you watched it, God, I've been watching it every year since I was 13 years old when I got the VHS tape, 13 or 14. So that'd be 42 years now. But that doesn't mean that I don't watch it, whenever I feel like watching it. But you know, it's just something about something that you have such a heavy connection to, that when you are growing, it's a neat way to reflect. You know, starting from the first, you know, when I first saw the movie, and then the 90s. You know, just I love it. I love it. It's my favorite movie. Number one favorite movie is Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I haven't rewatched it in a while. I that was a movie that me and my pals watched multiple times, and we used to quote all the time. Do you know the riddle of steel, boy? And it's like, you must crush them and hear the lamentation of their women. You know, all those kind of quotes. But yeah. You know, the reviewing of the movies keeps going. I checked out this Ray Liotta movie from like '88 called No Escape. And the movie was so bad there was no escape. It was like, you know, he's in this prison island, and there's this like mini society of fighters, and you know they fight amongst each other, and there's, you know, and it was like 2 hours long. It was so much just like talking heads, and it was a real disappointment, so I didn't finish it. I maybe got halfway through. So that's I'm not going to show the graphic for that one, but you know, don't watch No Escape by Ray Liotta. They mentioned it in my book in passing, so I checked it out, but turns out it sucked. And you know, there was the action.
It's a post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, well, they kind of allude to
dystopian.
Like, yeah, they allude to like the world has gone downhill, but you're really only in in this indoor prison, and then this like outdoor prison society, no, this island society where all these people escaped from prison, and you know, they're trying to fight off other people, and then the prison people are looking for them. There's no way off this island, and it's just, you know, it had a good setup, you know, like, but I don't think it went anywhere. I mean, you know, if I fall asleep in the middle of it, you know, and I don't have any interest in watching the end, then you know your time is better spent just moving on to the next one. I mean, let's face it, there was a lot of stinkers made out there, and you know, a lot of them are bad in a good way, which I'm fine with. You know, if something's low budget and not pretentious, and it makes fun of itself, and you know, they just have some like, you know, hot chicks and corny lines, I'm right there. But you know, these movies shouldn't be 2 hours. That's too long.
That's a good point.
And you know, and they need to be good, right? You know, a good movie, even if it's a bad good movie, just, you know, keeps you watching like a train wreck. You know, if it's really bad, then you want to watch and see how bad it is. Like one like really awful, terrible movie that just lambasted everywhere was the John Travolta one, where with the famous sci-fi novel, Battleship Earth.
Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth. Yeah. Oh my God. And that, you know, that had a pretty big budget too, but you know, it was just so bad, so awful. And yet, you know, I would watch it maybe one more time before I die. You know, like I only saw it the once, and I was like, oh geez, you know, what a piece of garbage. But that's because I was with my normal friends watching it, and I tried to make it seem like I was above all that. Yeah, when I'm with my sci-fi friends, we can be honest and say, "Oh, this movie is terrible. I can't wait to watch it again." John stars as a, you know, heavily made up Klingon or whatever.
Well, it's all based on the origins of Scientology by L. Ron Hubbard. It's actually a truth tale. That's in the core. That's in the core belief system that comes out of Dianetics. Dianetics. Sorry. But there's a whole, aliens came to this earth and all Anunnaki kind of type of stuff.
Right. And what if the alien was a bad guy that was doing,
well, there are there's bad actors in the universe, and so give me all your money and I'll help you get cleared, with that whole thing that he had and stuff, some genius stuff going on there in the 70s with
L. Ron Hubbard is something that we got to talk about, because here's a guy that he was writing sci-fi and world.
He wrote pulp. He was one of the first pulp writers to admit that he buys rolls of paper and then feeds it into his typewriter and then just drinks massive amounts of coffee, maybe doing amphetamines and smoking cigarettes, and would write the whole novel and then walk it down the street to all the publishers, who did the pulp magazines, and somebody would buy it. He wrote everything. He wrote pirates and gangsters and science fiction and a whole lot. He just wrote it, but he couldn't get anywhere. Like, he was very struggling. And he had a chance meeting with Aleister Crowley, who was towards the end of his life, and he was trying to get a movie going. And Aleister Crowley, on a helicopter ride or a boat ride with L. Ron Hubbard, leaned in and said, "You should take all that good imagination stuff and come up with your own religion." Got off the helicopter or boat and started writing about Dianetics.
Right. So that's the interesting thing about him, as opposed to some of these other sci-fi guys, or even the beat writers who are, doing their thing with the rolls of paper too. It's that he said, you know what, if I can build these worlds in my imagination, and I can make out like a society and like a belief system, and if you write it, people buy your stuff, and then next thing you know, like Star Trek, you have people that walk around their daily lives, this is no joke, and they say all the sayings, like may the force be with you, but the good of the many outweighs that of the few, right? And they really take this stuff to heart, and it's
a belief system. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with somebody attaching to something that gives them a sense of perspective, at least. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, there's nothing I don't see anything wrong. Well, there is this kind of like hierarchy of like follower and and sage, or guru or whatever, and L. Ron Hubbard definitely had it going on. He got people on the hook, to come along with him on his ride of his religion. And I don't know too much about it, but there's like e-meter, and there's like a board of people that judge you, and you get certified, and Tom Cruise and John Travolta and all this stuff. But then there's all these documentaries about, it turned into a hellscape. I couldn't get out. It's a cult. They took all my money. They don't let me see my kids. And so, just like any other religion, you got the good and the bad. But, what he did was visionary. And I have some old LP records of him speaking. That was pretty interesting, because, I think it was in the 50s when he's doing all this, and he had a lot to say and a lot of philosophy and stuff. But, when does a sci-fi writer make that leap to say, like, I'm thinking of like the big writers you get, or like somebody like Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, such a big following. If she just like said, all right, that's it, tomorrow we're going to have a religion, you would get people like when I was at that stupid Universal theme park and saw all those people sinking every penny they have into Harry Potter costumes and walking around with glasses and wands and robes and fake parrots on their shoulder, or whatever the hell it is, owls. I'm just like, these people are hook, line, and sinker. And if it makes them happy, I'm all for it. But you could just have a different, like a shift, in the creator saying, you know, I don't want to just make entertainment, you know, like fiction. I want to make something that people, you know, can live their entire lives by and become like the totality of their life. And that's what L. Ron Hubbard did. So, you know, I don't know if there's lots of other examples of it. I mean, I guess, you know, you have all these Maharajas and stuff, like they might have a book out or something. Deepak Chopra was one that had like some best-selling books, and a lot of people, like, you know, would go see him speak. And
well, it's all about getting answers in life. That's what it all comes down to. I mean, I was a seeker until my late 40s. I was a seeker. In other words, I got into all kinds of new age and spiritual stuff, if you will. No, well, I mean, I did the Tony Robbins. I mean, I didn't go to a Tony Robbins, but I did follow and read a lot of Tony Robbins. I went to it. There's just there's too much to go into, but you know, my biggest accomplishment out of it was 13 years of training in Aikido with an absolute incredible man by the name of Sensei Rick Barry, who I still have breakfast with at least once a month, if not twice a month, to, you know, basically share what I'm experiencing. And if I have questions, it's not like he's one of these people who goes, "Oh, Kurt, you must go." He doesn't do it. He's the most, yeah, it's none of that kind of stuff. He's such a grounded individual that, you know, it's just very nice to be around and share, you know, how one's feeling at the time or thoughts, trying to sort things out, which I think is very important. You know, I think it's a very important thing to not live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in your head. And being an artist, that's the job. The job is you live in your studio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unless you're lucky like I am, who has a wife and says, "Get the hell out of there. We're going to the grocery store. We're going to go see my dad. We're going to go see your parents." You know what I mean? Like, if I don't have that, which I hadn't had in my past, weeks would go by, you know, and somebody would knock on my door and I'd be like, what? You know? Hey, dude, you got to come out and have some lunch and stuff. So, you know, I mean, I'm not endorsing anything in the way of, like, you know, cult behavior, but I am endorsing individuals, you know, find healthy ways, especially when you're an artist and you're struggling with, you know, thoughts that you have, you know, to find a good, healthy place to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's listening, feel free to add a comment. And Kurt, you're going to show me how to look at the live. If I click,
do you have it on the top right? Like, go to the right hand side of your.
I click chat, and then it says studio chat, host, producers, guest.
No, go to the live stream chat. I think that's what it is.
Oh, well, maybe I should have that on a different device then. But
no, it should just pop up on. It should pop up on your screen.
If I go to the live stream.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're talking about in Riverside, but if anybody's listening and you and on any platform and you want to contribute, this could even be after the fact if you're watching this on a replay. Put in the chat like different you know, self-help programs, or, you know, episodes, or like I had cassettes you know, that I would get, but some my mom had some that when she died I discovered in her belongings. And, you know, the point is, like, there's a real thirst for people, you know, out there to find meaning and to improve yourself and to, you know, find fulfillment and happiness. And, you know, you do see these philosophers and these, you know, sometimes it's like a diet guru, sometimes it's a televangelist, and sometimes it's a preacher. You know, you see all these different people that get all these different followings of people, you know, and they have some kind of like spin on, you know, how to live your life, how to look at the world, you know, what to do differently, how to think about yourself, you know. And sometimes it's like a best-selling book, like that, you know, Napoleon something guy is like how to make money and get chicks or something like that, you know. The book was like really thin, but it was like a bestseller. and you know, sometimes it's like I remember like looking on YouTube and you know, listening to Alan Watts and listening to, you know, all of these, you know, people, and you know, you find people to follow that just enrich your life, you know, for whatever reason. And you know, sometimes it is grifters, you know, like Jim and Tammy Faye Baker, you know, obviously we're just ripping people off, but you know, you can't say that they didn't make people happy and they didn't fulfill people on a Sunday, you know, or whatever. So you know, there's a give and take with that, but you know, the point being is like there's such a thirst for meaning and for people to, like, you know, improve their lot in life. And sci-fi is a very kind of overlapping genre with these kind of things, because you want the escape, but you're not, you know, you're not looking at like a cheap romance novel, or you're not reading, you know, some kind of like you know, adventure story or crime drama, or you know, you're thinking about the future. You know, you're thinking about what's going to happen, what's the world going to be like, how are humans going to deal with, you know, the advance of technology, and you know, the way things are going. You know, we're going into space, we're going into you know, the microverse, we're going into you know, deep understandings of science, you know, the quantum realm. So um you know, all this to say, yeah, if you're along on the ride here for the turbo world, you know, feel free to contribute, you know, any of your influences, so that we can, you know, so we could play off that and see, you know, what our early turbonaut adopters, you know, have been experiencing. You know, I don't imagine anybody's has, you know, been into Scientology that's listening now, but maybe you have some kind of experience. um you know, I grew up on a hippie commune between the ages of like 4 and 6, maybe like 4, 5 and a half. So I did have some experience with, you know, with that. It wasn't like a Koresh compound or anything, but it was, you know, communal living and all that kind of stuff in upstate New York. So you know, lots of different experiences out there. And you know, you wonder what Matt King would say about this, because he follows all that, you know, heavy religious kind of like psychological, you know, uh, manipulation of people. And you know, it gets, I mean, you mentioned Crowley. Aleister Crowley was, you know, he's the famous Mr. Crowley in the Ozzy Osbourne song. I think that was Ozzy solo, not Black Sabbath, but Mr. Crowley. That was a huge, like, you know, heavy metal.
Jimmy Page bought his mansion. That's what he
Right,
lived in. He lived in Aleister Crowley's mansion. And so that's
right,
when Led Zeppelin fell into the whole black magic and the
yeah,
Zoso symbols and everything like that. But you go into reading about Aleister Crowley, I spent a month and a half of my life going down that rabbit hole. Just
yeah.
starting with YouTube videos, documentaries. There's so much about that guy. But it really does reflect back, you know, a lot of the human traits all of us have. It's just whether we choose to show them this way or use them that way, or it's very fascinating individual and very influential in our society. Whether,
But what about
you know,
Satanism? How does he really interact with Satanism? Because that's like, you
well,
know,
I mean,
the
if you
top
get
line.
that's just cartoon talk. To be
Yeah,
honest with you, Satanism is cartoon talk, and it's not topical other than just being like comic book oriented. Because there's just two schools of magic, and it's just black and white, and each one of them is used in a performance to gain something in this physical world through
yeah.
entities that are around us and above us. So, you know, the legitimate part is just should always be kept, you know, in that conversation. But, you know, that whole nonsense we went through, my favorite story about my mom and I and growing up is I was being introduced at like 13 or 14 years old to new wave music. And at that same time, Ozzy and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, all these, Tipper Gore was dragging all these people into court, for congressional hearings. And it was all about Satan worshipers, right? Satan, 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 right? Yeah. They had all that thing. I was a great friend of mine in college, Darren Walters, grabbed out of his locker 2 albums. He had a bunch of albums in there that he bought from Rolling Thunder, which I lived behind where it used to be, and said, hey, you got to go home and listen to these 2 albums. Yeah, whatever, dude. That's my homework. Grabbed them, go home. I put them on the kitchen counter, and go to get some orange juice or at a cupcake or whatever it was. My mom was in the kitchen. She turned around and she screamed, get that stuff out of here. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, Mom? What the hell are you talking about? She goes, that's Satan music. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Mom? What are you talking about? So the albums were The Fine Young Cannibals and Simply Red.
Oh, God. No, it's not.
So if anybody, I was like, no, Mom, this is new wave. This is not heavy metal. I don't care. I don't care. It says Fine Young Cannibals and Simply Red. And it was like this red cover, So I go, no. So I grab the albums. I run upstairs. She chases me. I throw the records on my record player. I'm holding her back. And if you ever know the opening for that album, the first album by the Fine Young Cannibals, which is Johnny, it goes, it's jazz. They're both jazz albums. I'm like, it's jazz, Mom, jazz. And she just turned around and left.
Yeah.
So that, I always bring that into illustration of when you don't understand something and you just read the cover and you make judgment on it, you're just fooling yourself, nobody else. So, and I'm not saying that to you. I'm just saying that in general. So,
Yeah. Well, there was hearings, they went right after Ozzy back in those days. I might be showing my age, but Ozzy had a song on an album called Suicide Solution. And it was like the last track on a side of one of his albums, and this kid killed himself. And the parents come into the room, and that the record was still
on the record player,
right? It was still spinning, and so then they're like, "Well, what's the last song he listened to?" And it's it was Suicide Solution. So they brought the like $100,000 lawsuit to Ozzy, and Ozzy beat everything, but he had to go to court, and he had to be on camera, and he had to be interviewed, and he was like, it's ridiculous. How can they hold me responsible? They're the ones that raised this kid.
There you go.
All day, every day, and it was depressed, and these things happened and everything. But there's not even any proof that that he heard that song, right? It was just the last song. He might have killed himself on the first track, and then the record just played the hell, right straight through. So it was ridiculous on his face. But that was like when they started putting the warning labels on records and CDs and everything, and and it wasn't just for curses or adult themes or drugs or whatever. It was also now suicide, or they're worried about copycat is going to do this, and it's ridiculous. Like Ozzy has like one of the greatest messages, life affirming peace and love message. If you go like even a little bit under the surface, we spoke about that last week.
Yeah.
But and it was like Suicide Solution. It wasn't like I mean, there was some, I think, some whispers in the song, like, do it, do it now. There's some stuff like that, but it's like a gimmick. I always talk about the interview of Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue.
Oh God!
And they're like, they put a microphone in his face. They're like, "Do you really worship the devil?" And he was like, what do you think? He's like, this is to sell merchandise. Are you kidding me? Like, I have 2 kids and a mortgage, right? I live in,
Yeah.
um, this is to sell wristbands and like, spiked, wallet, with a chain on it in Spencer Gifts. I mean, it's all, promotion. Give me a break. So, it's fun, to share all that. But yeah, Aleister Crowley had a, reputation of, the Church of Satan, and I think the Church of Satan is very, very meaningful, because every time we see, the government passing a law that speaks about religion, like, if you're a religion, you get to have protections. If you're a religion, you get to have tax free status, tax exempt from like property taxes and all that. If you're a religion, you get to to open up a school. If you're a religion, you get to do this and that. So the Church of Satan just says, hey, we're a religion and we're going to file the same papers as everybody else. We want to get tax exempt. We want to get a school. We want to, build a statue in the, in the town square, and get every single protection too. So it's a great illustration, when you flip it, on back on the religiosos, that are, trying to spread their gospel, to say, well, other people have other, religions too. I mean, I think the point is that, the Christians, and the Judeo-Christian society want it to be that way. And the minute you say, "Well, is it okay if we build a Muslim madrasa right by 9/11?" Then they're like, "Oh, forget about it! Are you kidding me? We're never gonna stand for that. Like, it's an outrage." It's like, but you just said religion, and it's like, well, it's not that religion, So there's just like, unending hypocrisy. But before we get too far into a rant, let's bring it back. I've been doing this panel here. I think I got it pretty much laid out. I do sometimes get sucked into like finishing the panel as if I was doing my final pencils, and I have to remember that I'm just kind of blocking it out. So I need to put the robot here in the back. I'm trying to match like Turbo's rough hair from these previous scenes, but I've been drawing Turbo's hair a little flatter lately. I'm looking at some of these older.
She's lost the conditioner.
Yeah, she lost her condition. Well, when you're in a fight, when you're in a fight and you get all sweaty, that's what happens. But no, I love drawing Turbo's hair. I mean, I like drawing shiny hair in general, and I wanted to maybe look into getting an art agent for this series that I do of these faces. Kurt, I've like been doing these like pretty big paintings, and then also these kind of illustrations and pads. And I have
Yep.
this like shiny hair thing I do, and I try to do like a pretty face and try to get like the geometric proportions just like really nice, so that's a beautiful face. Um, when I was coming through, this would be fun for the listeners if you want to put a how sometimes I have an idea for your comments or your questions that you ask on the community tab for our YouTube.
The polling questions.
Yeah, polling questions, right? So, but you could write like any answer in you want, so it doesn't have to be one of the choices, right? I came across this thing where I sat down with my brother and my mother, and we made like a little chart, and I wrote eyes, hair, mouth, nose, body, and we were just I don't know when I did this. I can't remember. When you're like going through old papers and you're like, holy geez, when like I don't even remember doing this. But what we did was we polled each other who has the best eyes, right? Who has the best nose? Who has the best, face, overall face? And so it was funny because, like, my mom was saying like, Bridget Bardot or or these old timers, And like, my brother was saying like Christina Applegate, and like who has the best nose, who has the best face, like, and my mom was like, Princess Grace has the best nose. She goes, I know, because I once went and got a consultation for a plastic surgeon. I was like, Mom, you've got the great, like, well, that's one thing my mom had, was like a nice nose. Why are you gonna start messing around? She was like, oh no, yeah. But yeah, I should bring that up. And so Kurt, maybe it's not top of mind. Sometimes you have to think about these things. But who's got the best? Who do you think has the best eye? Let's do eyes first. Who's got the best eyes in all of?
Sophia Loren.
Sophia Loren, right?
Best nose, Isabella Rossellini.
Oh wow, that's funny. That she was on the list of who, when I met my wife, we were online for a long time, before we met in person, and I was like,
You were pen pals.
yeah, I was like, who do you describe yourself as? And she was like, Marie Osmond, Elizabeth Rossellini, and what's her name, Julia Roberts, and I forget who the other one, but yeah, she's up there. I know, Raquel Welch was a real hot sex symbol back in the 60s, right? But like, who's got the perfect? So who do you think has the perfect nose?
Isabella Rossellini.
Oh, you said,
actually, I believe Isabella Rossellini. Yeah, Isabella Rossellini in my book
run the
is
table
the most beautiful. She is the most beautiful woman in the world.
So
Sophia Loren can cast a shadow. Obviously, even as an older woman, she's swinging. But I've always been, since Blue Velvet, she was her photo shoot in the 90, no, it must have been like the 88 or 89 Interview magazine, Andy Warhol's Interview magazine. She had the cover and she had a spread in it. But I was caught between those two things, those two pieces of media, and I just latched onto like just how incredibly. But physicality for me is not everything. It's also her personality, like the way she comes across as very controlling in her mannerisms and obvious speech and everything. I just find her to be amazingly fascinating. She was also married to David Lynch and then Gary Oldman. She just has like, she's like royalty on like the upteenth level.
So these are the references that we give, like when we're when you're trying to like draw the perfect face, or you're trying to like, or maybe somebody feeds us into AI, like, give me a perfect face, but base it on this one, but change it so I don't get like, copyright infringement. There's a classic, sex symbol.
How about you?
Well, I got my preferences, like that's what I sometimes do, is sometimes I screen grab like 6 pictures of a face, a memorable face, and that's what I make my characters based on, right? Like I didn't do that with Turbo or Trophy, but like some of these other characters like Elevena, I found this actress and I took up, I took all these stills and I keep them in my phone in a little folder to have a reference of her from the side and from the angles and everything. But yeah, you should ask this in the poll question, like, who do you think has the most perfect face? What actress or star or whatever, or model? There's also the question of body, right? And for years, Marilyn Monroe was always like the number one response, for Americans, to ask that. But, now, times change. So you have different, sex symbols and different, generations. Sometimes you do want more than like a model on a cover. Like some of the famous supermodels were like Christy Brinkley and Cindy Crawford and Daniela Pestova, and who was the one that married Rick Ocasek of the Cars? It was like Paulina Porizkova or something.
Uh-huh.
The only reason I know all these names is because my mom was in fashion, and she literally had all of these women wearing her fashions on the covers of all the magazines in the 80s and the 90s and the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But you know, a lot of people like you're saying, you know, they're kind of one dimensional. You know, they're just in front of a camera pouting their lips, and that's it. You know, what about acting, or what about being in a movie, or carrying a story for an hour or two? You know, can you do that? You know, and you can make people feel a lot more. You know, so it's funny, like we think of the greatest actresses of all time, and you think of like Meryl Streep, or people like that, and it's not it's not really the glamour thing anymore. It's really like the acting ability and the chops. So I think it's a great question, but you could also like just parcel out every little feature, right? Like when I think about who's got the best eyes, I mean, you got to do that, with or without makeup, because there's a whole different thing with makeup on there. But I always like Barbara Eden, you know, from I Dream of Jeannie. Remember her?
Tina Louise.
Tina Louise.
Ginger.
Right. Well, she was.
Ginger.
Yeah, she was just like she was playing a Marilyn Monroe character on Gilligan's Island, right? Except she was a redhead. But she was in her heyday. She did a lot of movies. You know, it was like the Frank Sinatra era. She did a lot of movies, and then she ends up on this comedy, and most people know her from that. But she also had a very similar look to Elvira.
Yes, Cassandra Peterson. I would definitely put those two. Those two would be at the top of my list.
Wait a minute. Did you just say I love Elvira? I would put those two at the top of my list.
Tina Louise, Elvira as Cassandra Peterson. Cassandra Peterson.
I thought you were talking about the
actress.
When you were saying those two, I was like, huh? She's only one person. I get you. It's Tina Louise and her. Yeah, they both were cut from a similar cloth for sure. It's arguable to say who had the better career, but I think Elvira had a lot more fun, doing all the.
Dude, she owns the best thing about Cassandra Peterson is she was smart enough out of the gate. She had done like one or two of those horror hostess things, the for local television, like literally getting paid like $10. She came up with the character, she came up with the costume, and performed it. Somebody said something in like the recording room, or she overheard somebody when she was leaving one day after recording, her shtick for the Midnight Massacre movie of Friday nights or whatever out in LA, and she immediately went like downtown and submitted copyright and trademark for both of those, and she has owned that character. Look it up on YouTube, Cassandra Peterson, Elvira, and owning that character, and what empire she built. It's hands down one of like the underdog stories, and she just did exactly what every creative should do, is believe in themselves 110 million% and put everything into it, and guard it too. Guard it. Don't take it lightly. Don't take it lightly when somebody comes along and like, I'll give you a couple bucks and you can do this and it'll give you some blah 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 exposure or whatever, Nope. So yeah. Hey, look, we're coming around the corner here towards the 11:15. Yeah, and I just want to do one thing real quick, is apologize for catfishing anybody. Because we were supposed to start lettering these amazing pages from Ken Landgraf for the Casualties, and so I just want to really just show off here towards the end of our program the amazing Ken Landgraf, 6 pages, is going to be in the Doom magazine #1, featuring the next 6 pages of Turbo Pit Fighter. It's the End of the World anthology. We've got Mr. Alex Turbin right now, tentatively, will be on with us next week to give us a Duke catch up. So I doubt we're going to be doing any lettering on this, but who knows? Who knows? But this needs to get lettered. We have to go through our agreed process of how we letter, Jake and I. And then, Alex showed off some stuff recently. I have the indie creator update reels that are going to be coming out after the 15th of this month. 5 of our past guests so far have sent me under 1 minute reels, update reels, basically what they're working on right now. We have Eli Schwab is giving a rundown on what titles he has out right now. It's really going to be exciting. It's also going to be a way for Jake and I to keep our bond with previous interviews with the indie creators that we've met on our channel here, and keep up to date with them. We have coming up in 20 minutes, we're going to be recording a episode with James Coates, who is one half of the Coates brothers. He is the artist on 2 titles, these 2 titles that we'll be flipping through. He has a Kickstarter right now for his Galaxy Gods 1 and 2. And he is the a partner in the PowerPulpComics.com distro. So indie distributing going on right now. You can, as a matter of fact, first place I'm going to go on my birthday is Power Pulp Comics, and make the purchase in my shopping cart for all the comics that I want out of there. So looking forward to it. But other than that, yeah, happy birthday to me.
Right. So, folks, you can check out our other channels. We have Comics to Influence, where we do flip throughs of great comics that we get our grubby fingers on. And you can check out our Indie Creator Exchange. Those are our other channels. See us back here live, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube for the making of Turbo Pit Fighter. Bring your artwork so you can draw along. And we're going to figure out this commenting thing, because we do like when this is a little more interactive. But, we're still working out the kinks on that.
What do you mean the commenting thing?
Yeah.
Working out.
Yeah,
I don't understand what you mean.
Go to at Doom Mags on Twitter. Go to at Doom Mags on Blue Sky. Go to at Doom Mags on Instagram. Go to at Doom Mags on Substack. You could catch us out there. But we'll see you next Sunday, Kurt. Sound good?
Yeah, we still have 3 minutes. So the thing is that I'm now scheduling the streams. Yeah. And so I have to put in the length of time. And what I've learned at this point is that basically, even if we jump off now, it's still going to run. Not that it's going to be recording. It just won't let us do anything else for the next 3 minutes. So we might as well just run out the clock. But comments can be made while we're doing the live stream. Let me just check on YouTube real quick.
Right. So you're saying I need to open up a separate tab to see the comments, or
it should be right at the right top of your dashboard. Yeah. Now something is going wonky because we do have a lot of comments on YouTube, but I'm not seeing them here in our. Yeah, something's going on with Riverside, so it definitely didn't come through. I'm going to take a moment here since we're live, Jake, and I'm just going to do a little responsing and stuff. But on Riverside, you have to go to the Riverside page. You know, your viewing page, us side by side. Up in the right-hand corner should be a chat button where you can see the chat going on.
No, up in the right corner, I see the little wheel for settings, and I see
okay. Then you don't have it. You don't have it because I'm the host, so you're just a guest.
Okay. Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. No, I just started. Streaming on YouTube Live, but I think this is us a few moments ago.
So
And
we got somebody in the chat who put Farrah Fawcett up there when it came to the hotties. So Mark
Farrah
Richard.
Fawcett had the greatest teeth, and
yes, the great.
everybody knows that she had, she had some, some nice bosomery going on, but she was also famous for the feathered back hair, and they literally call that the Farrah Fawcett look.
Farrah Fawcett, that's right.
And if you go down the Farrah Fawcett kind of bucket, you get into Charlie's Angels, right? And now you had so now you could talk about the brunette and the blonde and it was, let's say, Jacqueline Smith was she was the full the kind of like a full head of brunette hair, but then there was what was the other one? Kate Jackson was she kind of like straight?
Cheryl Teague.
Well, Cheryl Teague is Farrah's replacement, right?
Okay, so we can get going now, Jake. It's 11:15. We're gonna want to close this down, and I will see you next Sunday, my friend.
All right, folks. I found the chat, and I'm putting in a comment. So we'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye, all. Be good. Later. There, I found the chat.